blacks being like, oh, we're going to get a race war. If there was a race war, you wouldn't win. Okay. First of all, you might have plenty of guns, but you don't know how to shoot them. The only reason blacks have not exterminated themselves in the hood, because black on black violence is insane and through the roof, is because they're such horrible shots. So you really think you're going to beat a duck hunter who shoots ducks for a living, for fun, on his free time, and doesn't miss?
This woman got fired and lost her mind. Like, literally. She got fired for saying the N-word, lost her mind. Like, why are you still on this tirade of, oh, free speech, free speech? Like, free speech is so weird when it's racial. Like, she just wants to be racist because that's the only thing that gets her paid. Like, gets her paid from whatever right wing side that she loves. This is weird. Why is having basic dignity for another person so hard? Like, there's no race war. If there was a race war, y'all been winning it the whole time, losing the race war. There's never been a time in America that being black was a good thing. Not one time. Not even now, apparently.
I know some few white people that are savages in my city. This white lady, it's like one of the loudest, you know. She'll start a fight and run to the cops. And then when the cops don't believe her, she'll do the crocodile tears. Do not fall for this rage bait that she's throwing and stuff. She's one of the loudest. That means she's the weakest. The white people I know in my city, they don't talk. Trust me, they don't talk. You end up in a garbage bag, chopped up. It's none but a race war and stuff, but do not fall for this woman's rage bait. She's the Lulu. I bet you catch her lacking, she'll be like, no, I didn't mean this. This is what I meant. I was under the influence. You know the Bible, God say forgives. Please, people, do not fall for this rage bait. She's a coward.
By the way, racism is not okay, but I will say, she really doesn't know what she's trying to start. She really doesn't know what she's trying to start. Then there's also other cultures that will stand with us because they see the inconsistency and some of these hateful people. Also, some of these racist, hateful people are very inconsistent, meaning if they rally together, there could be a lot of inconsistent people, meaning some people don't want to be with that. But like I said, y'all don't understand how wrong you are. Try it, though. I'm going to say something that'll put fear in her. She is no type of soldier. No type of soldier. She could probably shoot a little bit, but she has not had the trauma of someone shooting at you, trying to take your life, kidnapping you, or any of that kind of stuff. A lot of us have had trauma, and we know how to react to it. We know how to watch for it. It's crazy. They literally think that we're stupid. It's crazy. All the inventions, all the things we did and all this stuff, I don't know.
A woman stood on camera and said that if there was ever a war race, black people would lose. And her reasoning, apparently we don't know how to shoot. She said we are not trained, that we don't practice proper firearm safety, that we only shoot like rappers or gangsters and not like trained soldiers. And somehow she imagined that duck hunting white folks are the real threat, that they would win this imaginary war with clean shots and calm discipline. Let me say this clearly without hesitation. This is not just ignorant, it's dangerous. Not because she might be right, but because she doesn't even realize the depth of what she's trying to ignite. This isn't just internet trolling. This isn't harmless venting. This is rage bait at its worst. And it's playing with real trauma, real history, and real lives. But here's what I find most telling. The loudest people talking about this so-called race war are almost always the least prepared for any type of real conflict. They talk tough, but when it comes down to it, they fold, they run, they hide behind internet screens and shotgun shells they've never fired at anything that shoots back. Loud doesn't mean strong. In fact, it often means the opposite. What she said wasn't just an insult to black communities. It was a window into how little she understands about survival, resistance, or the weight of trauma. She thinks a race war is just target practice on a Sunday afternoon. She doesn't know what it means to live under pressure, to survive generations of institutional violence and still walk with dignity, because that's what Black communities have done for centuries. We've survived slavery, redlining, segregation, police brutality, discriminatory lending, housing, employment, and somehow, despite all of that, we are still here, still building, still dreaming, still creating. And now, some YouTube philosopher with a mic and no real experience wants to question our ability to survive a war. Sis, we've been in a war. Not one with bayonets and dark blinds, but one that bleeds into economics, policies, healthcare, education, policing, a war that happens in courtrooms, on sidewalks, in classrooms, a war of narratives, a war of culture, and despite the weight of all that, we are still standing. Now, I want to address this stereotype head on, the one that says we don't know how to shoot or that we are reckless with firearms. Let me ask this plainly. Have you ever been to a train ride in Texas? Have you met Black hunters in South? Have you seen Black farmers with generations of loud teaching their sons and daughters how to handle rifles safely with respect? Or are you basing everything you know off world star clips and movie villains? Because there's a difference between media representation and reality. This woman, like so many others, confuse entertainment with evidence. She thinks because a few rap lyrics glorify violence, that's how we all live. She thinks because gang violence exists, and yes, it absolutely does, and we need to address it, that all Black people are untrained, fools with itchy trigger fingers. But here's the real irony. If Black people were as dangerous and untrained as she claims, wouldn't that make us unpredictable? Wouldn't that make us harder to defeat in the chaotic scenario she's fascinating about? And yet, the truth is even deeper. The fact that so many of us are trained in military, in hunting, in self-defense, and still choose peace, still choose community, still choose family.
So much to unpack in this video, and I can't start off with deciding. Is it worse that she's trying to incite a race war and dry ass trying to say Black folks is? Or does she believe we too incompetent to be able to survive one? Like we ain't been surviving this old white supremacist society. They have institutions and systems that's always trying to exterminate us anyway. I can't decide, you feel me? I also think so Black folks can't hold a firearm correctly, nor do we practice firearm safety. Apparently what she's saying. Also, Black hunters and farmers don't exist. She must not know about them well-seasoned firearm toters at them old trail rides. You know, they doing more than just doing trail ride dances there, huh?
Go watch that shit. Straight to the point. I don't believe in race. I believe we're all equal. History has been history, yes. And if you know that history has been history, which is his story, so many things y'all don't know. Y'all believe everything in the 1800s and 1700s and 1500s and see, that was all books, no evidence. And the only evidence they can give you is more trickery. Let a race war happen. Not worried about it. Because white people tired of white people. Alleged white people. Because there is no race. Get that type of understanding. And you'll see how much time you're wasting on that shit. We all family. I'm sorry that you didn't get something that made you feel uncomfortable and made you angry. And you felt some love.
So funny she's talking about guns. You know why? Because a fuck bitch can't fight. She ain't got hands. She gotta use a gun because she's pathetic. If there was a race war, you people would lose. Because guess what? There are more people of color than there are of you guys. See, but her, she's just miserable. She's talking shit about Black people, but her fake fuck hand just proves she wants to be Black people. And it's so ridiculous. Because I'm pretty sure any Hispanic, any Black person, anyone of fucking color will agree with me.
Let's talk about trauma for a moment, because one thing that stood out in the response to her video was this theme of understanding trauma, real trauma, not imagined heroics. When you've been shot at in real life, when you've had your door kicked in by police in a knock raid, when you've buried friends who are unalive, too young or too poor or too forgotten, you don't glamorize violence. You don't fantasize about war. You understand what it cost. You feel it in your bones. And that is what she doesn't get. She thinks it's a debate, a TikTok trend, a hot take. But some of us have actually lived through things that leave you trembling at night. And that knowledge, that scar tissue, it makes us dangerous, and not because we are violent, but because we know when violence is real and we move differently. The responses that called her out, they didn't do it with more rage. They did it with clarity. They did it with focus. They said the person doesn't know what she's trying to start, and that is the truth. She doesn't. She's the kind of a person who throws a grenade and thinks it will only blow up the people she dislikes. She forgets that war, real war, doesn't care who you meant to aim at. Once it starts, it consumes everything. Let's talk about race and concept, because one of the most powerful replies I saw came from someone who said, there is no race. We are all family. Now, some folks will hear that and roll their eyes. They'll say that's naive. But if we are being honest, race as we know it, it's a social construct. It was created, engineered, weaponized, not by nature, but by systems that needed justification for oppression. And even though we live within the consequences of that construction, some of us still dare to say, I see beyond it. Not because we are ignoring reality, but because we are dreaming bigger than the trap. And isn't that what resilience is? To acknowledge the chains and still imagine freedom, to see the divide and still believe in unity. One commentator said, white people tired of white people. And as funny as that sounds, there is truth in it. We are not living in a world where entire groups of people move as one. The internet would have you believe all white folks think the same and all black folks move the same. But in reality, there's division within every circle. There are white folks who stand up against racism with everything they have. There are black folks who fall for rage bait and conspiracy theories. There is no monolith here. And that's why this whole race war fantasy is flawed, because it assumes the world is black and white, good and evil, shooter and target. But reality is nuanced. Reality is that some of the most dangerous people in the world don't talk at all. They don't go viral. They don't yell on TikTok. They move in silence. They build laws and policies. They fund campaigns and think tanks. They don't threaten war. They create conditions that make people desperate enough to fight. So to that woman who made the original claim, you are not a warrior, you are not a leader, you are not a prophet, you are a distraction. You are a voice yelling in the hallway of a burning building, arguing about who deserves the fire first, while the roof caves in on us all. And I say that not in anger, but with deep disappointment, because you had a platform, and instead of using it to call for peace, unity, strategy, or healing, you chose to entertain division. But here's what I know. Black people aren't going anywhere. We've survived too much, learned too much, loved too deeply. We built this country's culture, economy, music, art, and innovation. And no amount of dark hunters, rage bait, or internet hot takes is going to undo that. We don't need to win a fake war. We've already won the real one, the one that tried to unalive our spirit, and we are still here, still marching, still laughing, still raising. So when someone's asked, would black people lose a race war? Tell them we are not playing that game. We are building something better. And if you're serious about justice, about peace, about survival, you should be building it with us. Guys, what do you think? Drop a comment, and also remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.